Yeah, so Rosalinda, thank you for giving us an awareness literally all the way up to COVID. I want to back up just a little bit. And once you started to embed the e-colors and personal intervention, pause and play into school, and maybe give us a little bit of context of where the school was and some of the inherent challenges, in that environment and how the e-colors played out there.
Southwest Schools was located in Houston. In Houston had a section called the Gulfton area. At the time when we were there, or when I was a principal there, it was the #1 crime area. So you had different gang affiliations that went to your school. And I am claiming to be 5'2", but that's only with heels. There's not much of me to try to physically defend a campus. So that year that I had mentioned to you that I first come in, that year grew me because I had to understand how to have conversations with young men who were hurting each other. And it wasn't just like an emotional hurt or push and shoves. Some of them ended each other's lives. And my staff historically had, or the staff that was at Southwest Schools, historically, I had a 50% rate of attrition. That means they left, half the staff always left at the end of the year because it was so rough to be in that neighborhood. At the end of my first year at Southwest Schools, I only had one staff leave, and she only left because she was going to raise her children, which was a completely different dynamic that the school hadn't seen before. And the initial thought process there was safety first. I didn't have a tool. I didn't have a mechanism to try to have this conversation. It was just a lot of grit and resilience of trying to get back up every time an incident would occur. So when e-colors came in at the end of the school year, it almost solidified everything I had said to the staff of that there is a way for us to sustain this. This isn't just an accidental great first year. We can actually be this good time and time again. And so when e-colors came in and identified the staff's strengths and potential limiters, that was one thing. But when we were addressing personal intervention and that you had control over what decisions and next steps took place, then that created accountability. Nobody could deny that we couldn't handle what was in front of us. So excuses were no longer part of the conversation.
So one of the things which really, to this day, and I will never forget the experience, is literally 3 weeks after we had introduced you and very few of your staff to the e-colors, we came back to the school and you said, I want to introduce you to my e-color champions. And I'd like you to talk that through, because I think it's really important for everybody who's going to take this forward, understanding the benefit and the role of that champion cadre.
One of the things that I do often is I recognize that I'm not the expert at everything. So when I have people who want to support and want to partner in the way that Chevron and Equilibria did at that time, I was listening to all of the knowledge and the wealth of knowledge that you had and the guidance that you had given us. And I know that there was some kind of level of champions that were trying to be created at other sites and other scenarios that you had mentioned from previous work that you had done. So all I did was hear you say that. And then I said, I can do it. That's not hard at all. As a matter of fact, philosophically, as a principal, I believe that we could learn from students. So I immediately had an interview session for that first set of 5 e-colors champions. And I made an announcement at the school. And I said, if you're interested in becoming a leader and want to go above and beyond what the normal childhood, high school experience is, reach out to me. And I will be holding interviews because we're looking for champions. And I had several children or young adults who wanted to participate. And my campus was a secondary campus. So I had anywhere from 6th through 12th grade on my campus. And I had an 8th grader, that was middle school interview. And I had several high school students interview for the positions. And by the time you came back, I introduced you to them because I felt it was important for you to see how quickly the tools were so simple to use that even these children or young adults could immediately see the benefits, not just at school, but for home as well.
Right. And I have to say, for those as you learn more about the e-colors, for those of you who watch this, the gentleman or the young student male who came forward, Diego, now works for Chevron, actually.
Yes.
Many years later, and he's doing really well, predominantly red-green. And
Yes.
2 young ladies, both predominantly blue-yellow, have just blossomed in their lives and gone on to do great things. And to this day, we still keep in touch, which I think is a really significant aspect, Rosalinda, which you've really brought on. And, you know, I hadn't thought about it when we were going to be having this conversation, but I wonder what the impact was of, because you actually had them sign a contract, didn't you?
I did. So the contract was because I knew that they were going to be in the spotlight, because I knew that there was going to be opportunities that were to come, and they were going to be the brand of the school. I needed them to be socially responsible. At that time, it was the height of social media being introduced into high schools. And I needed them to understand that the investment we were making in them and the opportunities that they were going to be given required some discipline, which it lend itself to personal intervention really easily.
Yeah. And actually, do you remember, well, so moving ahead just a little bit, so they got wristbands, they got their personal intervention wristband, depending on the recolors. They got pocketbooks. And I think one of the things that I wanted to bring out, which again, I will never forget, is when they came to us collectively and said, you know, we really like the e-colors, we like all the information, but it's all in adult language.
Yes.
Can we get together and actually convert it into student language? And we literally all weekend, with some volunteers and some of the students and some of the parents, they came up, which today we still obviously use all around the world. Do you remember that?
Yep. That second year that of my career there at the high school was all investment in developing the tools to meet the needs of high school students and even up to elementary. And we took a weekend where it was a workshop like no other. No one could have ever imagined the testimonies, the different scenarios that took place. To me, one of the highlights of that weekend, not just the fact that it happened well over 13 years ago, but that the champions that I had told, you will have experiences and you will be growing as a young leader through all of these experiences, had such incredible aha moments. And one of my students, whose name's Kevin, had seen a fellow blue-green in an adult that was volunteering that weekend. And he said to himself, now I can see myself grow up, because he was so perplexed with what his life would look like. To see a fellow blue-green that behaved similarly to him, that acted like him, but was still successful professionally, he could now envision that for himself as well. And I was really happy to see that that was his takeaway from the weekend, on top of getting the contributions that he offered and extended throughout the time that he was a champion, including a lot of the artwork that we had done. But to know that he could see beyond where he was stuck. And typically when some children are stuck and I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to be. I don't even know if I want to do life. All of those things were changing for our children.
Excellent, Rosalinda.